Verlisify is a member of the Pokemon community, heavily involved in the Pokemon YouTube scene, sitting pretty at about 467,000 subscribers. He is the self-identified best Pokemon channel, at least according to his About section. A trend of self-indulgence you're going to have to become accustomed to if you want to survive this video. A more adequate description, as according to his Wikitubia, is one of the most negative influences to the Pokemon community. I'm going to do my best to outline the exact actions of Verlisify with how they relate to his character. However, I will note that to cover every confrontation he gets himself into would be a near never-ending journey. What I will do instead is discuss topics as they relate to certain aspects of his character. This can whittle down the amount of things we need to talk about in place for just the right amount of evidence necessary. To act as a great jumping off point, we can discuss Verlisify's controversy with Smogon. Smogon, sometimes referred to as Smogon University, is a website aiding in Pokemon battling through guides and strategies, one that provides a specific format to competitive battling unofficial to what's typically performed. In early 2014, Verlisify held a couple of controversial takes regarding some of the decisions made by Smogon at the time. The heat his videos generated eventually led him to participating in an interview. This was done with another PokeTuber known as the Flaming Spade. I mentioned this livestream because I want you to remember this line. Just 5 minutes in, Verlisify says, quote, "I'm not going to play the hypocritical side. I'm not going to be like, oh well, they called me bad names first, so I can say what they said back." Further going on to say he will not, quote, "stir up the pot, creating more drama, creating another hate video." This paints a very different image than the Verlisify we know today. Even for 2014, this was known to be false. For almost 10 years now, stirring the pot or instigating drama was a prime character trait for Verlisify. To return to the Smogon drama, generalizing what went down here, Verlisify would attack Smogon using logical fallacies, resulting in Smogon defending themselves, in turn retaliating against Verlisify. He would then cry harassment as if he didn't instigate any of it from the beginning, which shows a character trait of spinelessness, being easily offended over an ego check. The quote I mentioned of Verlisify saying he's not going to play the hypocritical side is noteworthy throughout this video, as it will be a great point to return to after each chapter. Due to this extensive history of Verlisify dating back years in the past, you may ask, Clappy, why are you even talking about this today? Well, for one, I've never been first to dramas, ever, but to say Verlisify's behavior has shown any signs of stopping would be a lie. For years upon years, this has been a continuous problem. And to demonstrate how Verlisify's behavior continues up until today, just 4 hours ago before scripting this portion of the video, Verlisify uploaded a video titled, "I made an amazing opossum Pokemon design using Midjourney, AI art guide," including the use of this artwork in promotional materials such as his profile picture and character still. Throughout the video, he would praise Midjourney for giving him commission level art without needing to pay for it. Sure, the hands aren't exactly working, and it's only taking from other people's work, essentially tracing it, but it's saving Verlisify money. As Verlisify says, this beats most artists anyways, so it's only going to get better from here, which absolutely nails it. Artistic integrity? What is that? Screw creativity and the point of art as a concept, Verlisify just saved himself $50. You would think that no one would be proud of acts like this, but this is Verlisify. Pride is a prime character trait. When one commenter minorly criticizes him by saying, "Now you will think you're a real artist or something," without even waiting an entire hour, Verlisify responds with, "There's an art to using AI. I have created impressive legitimate art with it, thus making me a valid artist. Cope NPC." This, Verlisify, and I will say this very slowly, you are no better than a computer from the 20th century. Your creative process is generating keywords for the software, and that's giving you more credit than you probably deserve. Even in another comment when someone says they are leaving, you reply again in less than an hour saying, quote, "Denying yourself quality content because you are an NPC is wild. taking any minor critique or lighthearted joke, becoming defensive and throwing out the word NPC like nothing, just reflects an ego and low self-esteem. Praising yourself as an artist is ludicrous. The only artistic thing about this is rampant consumerism and how we get to people like you who are so self-centered. What's possibly less surprising, lacking respect for artists isn't a new issue. Instead, Verlisify is known for stealing artwork in a variety of ways. Going back many years, in some minor examples, stolen artwork is used in thumbnails and is left uncredited. When artists would complain to Verlisify over their artwork being used, he would block the artist and do it anyway, frequently repeating this process despite artists condemning his actions. In another example, in a series run by Duncan Knee Deep, or as he's known on YouTube, Duncan Can't Die, the logo of his series would be copied and reused in a parody video that mimics the series. I singled this example out in particular due to the intentions behind the theft. Leaked Skype messages would show Verlisify wanting to make Duncan feel, in his words, shittier. To do this, Verlisify would parody Duncan's content with the most minor of alterations just so he could scrape by fair use. Further going on to say, quote, "Also, at least I found out how to upset Duncan, he gonna get it." When actively stealing from artists to either spite, harass, or save money from them, Verlisify equally enjoys complaining about a YouTuber who used a meme he made. To again quote him directly, "Wow, @PokeTrends stole my meme. Is it really that hard to credit people? Does it hurt your ego?" In full honesty, I don't need to make any comment here. Verlisify is making my job oh so easy by just spoon-feeding us his hypocrisy, cowardly calling out other YouTubers and blocking artists when they do the same thing to him. Stealing is not only subjected to artwork, stealing content is another act done by Verlisify. One example of such behavior is his experience with the channel Poketips, where Verlisify would create a video that dealt with shiny hunting for Pokemon Let's Go, which at the time was the most recently released game. In this video, Verlisify makes the attempt of critiquing other Poketubers and their methods of shiny hunting. For example, YouTuber Poketips, who had released a video a few days prior, even directly calling Poketips' methods in particular, quote, "garbage information," singling out Poketips alongside name-dropping a few other creators for rushing terrible methods just to be the first to drop a video. In his words, having a stupid idea and instead of testing it, rushing it to get more views. What's interesting is the methods Verlisify chooses to outline are eerily similar to Poketips, copying the exact same step-by-step tutorial and information he had previously called garbage. This is not to say Poketips is claiming ownership over the tutorial, merely how Verlisify claims in his video that they are his very own methods. However, they clearly appear to be ripped directly from Poketips' video, a video we know he watched, as he stated at the beginning of the video that Poketips' information was garbage, even including the thumbnail for Poketips' video in his own with bold text saying, "all wrong," just thrown over top. When all this happened, Poketips would create a video detailing what Verlisify had been doing, and the similarities between their videos. In response, Verlisify would cry wolf, stretching out this drama through various responses and hour-long live streams, all of which amount to nothing, only providing him with more content and a back and forth between the two that demonstrates Verlisify's stubbornness, his arrogance, and his inability to admit wrongdoing. Instead, he would rather try to fabricate a drama between him and any random Pokemon YouTuber for clickbait attention. Verlisify also notably claims every other videos made previous to his own were from selfish YouTubers trying to make cash-grabbing content, directly saying, "Everyone that's made a shiny hunter video so far, they did it only for the money. They did it only for the clicks. They don't care about you as a viewer." Of course, not like Verlisify, the self-described best Pokemon channel, who, as he said in the very same video, brings the best content you can find in Pokemon. However, this is despite padding runtime by calling out YouTubers, stealing content and methods before passing it off as one's own, and padding out more runtime by trailing off the video into discussing a completely different topic, all in an attempt to stretch the video out to 10 minutes, which, if you didn't know, was the old requirement to be able to place mid-roll ads on a video, all of which throws a dampener on the whole "it's the other creators that are doing it for the money" argument. Another aspect of his content is the instigation of drama for seemingly no reason. In a conflict similar to Poketips, 8 years ago, Verlisify would comment under a beginner's guide to Pokemon. Verlisify would class the video as a weak guide. Now, this is entirely subjective. It may be childish, but it's fair. What's annoying is the self-advertisement by saying, quote, "I made a real guide on developing strategies on my channel. I don't feel this one does a good job." How classy of him to put down others and advertise himself in the process. That being said, how much better are Verlisify's guides exactly? Well, despite being an outsider to the Pokemon community, in this case it doesn't take a chef to know your food is bad. Even without being a competitive player, some of the advice Verlisify gives is discernibly terrible. As a prime example, this is Verlisify's recommended loadout for the Pokemon Wailord. A moveset including Curse, Amnesia, Rest, and Heavy Slam. Wailord, the water-type Pokemon, now isn't effective against fire-type Pokemon. Heavy Slam, which is affected by weight, is the only attack, possibly mistakenly thinking Wailord to be the heaviest Pokemon, despite Alolan Execure weighing more than it. I can get the confusion. I too would think a giant whale weighs more than a palm tree, but this is Verlisify, the best Pokemon YouTuber, claiming to be the smartest player who creates a Wailord unable to kill the thing it's supposed to be effective against, truly acting as the shining star for Verlisify's so-called intelligence, and his aggressive demeanor towards fellow YouTubers attempting to spark controversy. Next to talk about, Verlisify has a habit of directing disparaging comments towards non-binary people and the LGBT community, comments that fall in line with those made by transphobic and homophobic individuals. To quote Verlisify directly, in a video published August 30th, 2020, going over a surprise teaser from the Pokemon Twitter page, he scrolls over a comedic reply poking fun that one of the color palettes on the tree is a flipped pansexual flag. He then asks, "Can people just not be ill, just once?" implying that referencing a pansexual flag is ill behavior, shortly after making the commonly made joke of spouting random letters in a sporadic order in a bid to mock LGBT identities. In a separate video about 2 months prior, he claimed he hates social media for people making pride icons, agrees with a reply stating the person is wrong for doing so, and that he quote, "can't keep up with that illness," before quickly moving on to another topic. All of which is to say Verlisify does not agree with the general idea of LGBT, and is easily offended by any light-hearted mention of such topics. Furthermore, he has condemned the use of they/them pronouns, referring to it as the Tumblr gender. Doesn't matter if he still uses the pronouns in other contexts, he doesn't believe they're real. Moving on to racism, concerning tweets can be found from Verlisify about Black Lives Matter or other black rights groups. In his words, they killed cops, and infers BLM consists entirely of thugs. From that you can conclude Verlisify isn't too positive about BLM groups. The groups he is in support of are those involved with the Charlottesville rally, a white supremacist group who congregated in Charlottesville, Virginia, with the purpose to march their alt-right views. Verlisify defends this as non-violent, and the left lacks so much self-awareness that they can't figure out the Charlottesville rally is doing what the left does with less violence. Forget the vehicular homicide during it causing 1 fatality and several injuries, or the assaults from attendees of the rally, or the fact that he has the gall to call them more tolerant. That doesn't make him one of them, surely. He does have a habit of defending a certain right-wing group, mostly known during the Second World War, that I can't name on YouTube, whilst at the same time holding Islamophobic remarks, saying all Muslims are bad people, or a great tweet claiming there are more bigots in the Pokemon community than they are in the unnamed group. Verlisify absolutely refuses being a white supremacist, and sure, he might not identify as Neo, but he does share almost all of their beliefs. Legally, I must repeat that he vehemently denies this reality. Take the tweets at your own opinion. If that wasn't enough for you, adding on another minority group, Verlisify would call a fellow PokeTuber who is diagnosed with autism so mentally handicapped that he can't prove one point about me in non-stop rants, which is plain pathetic, and the fact someone is able to make, as you call them, non-stop rants just about you should be a wake-up call. Verlisify would then try to damage control before going back to critiquing his autism, calling it an excuse. Even if, to give Verlisify the smallest benefit of the doubt, to say that he wasn't aware of this YouTuber's autism, he still used a disability as an insult, and he doubled down after the fact, all of which would culminate in the YouTuber in question Verlisify was talking about to release a video that addresses the situation. Finally, Verlisify has made a few insensitive comments towards women. To understand how this is, we need to look at his conflict with Tamahiro, formerly known as Tamashii. In a live stream where he plays Pokemon, Verlisify would make a passing comment about Tamashii.
I think Tamashii, she doesn't doesn't really do the greatest quality videos. That she's kind of like a female J-Witz, and she got popular for being a female J-Witz, and her videos aren't as wholesome, honestly. It feels like they're money based.
Now, I could be pedantic and call out the unnecessary inclusion of gender in that sentence, but I don't need to. On Twitter, he would tweet, "Honestly, it seems like Tamashi is just going to be a Twitch cam girl to make more money with less passion. It seems that Verlisify is extremely prone to throwing out specifically gendered insults, all to a person who didn't even react to him, didn't prompt anything he said. Verlisify just decided to go after this woman. In the aftermath of this, Verlisify would drop probably the worst apology video that I've ever witnessed, in which he would state some of the reasoning for his comments. Let me go over the timeline of events according to Verlisify. Keep in mind that I am making none of this up. Verlisify makes a comment on stream, decides to just commit to the comment and talk about her a little more. He says the comments he makes are inflammatory because that's what he does when he's going in on someone. And because of that, it's going to be a bad take, and he is just taking it to the next level. That's not a good thing. Yep, I might have made those comments towards women, but I thought it would just make good press. They say anger makes the best headlines. You leftists wouldn't understand. You can't go on to say that you didn't know the term was so loaded when you self-admittingly used it because you thought it was the rudest thing you could possibly say. What were you thinking? As described through the series of incidents we've gone over, Verlisify gets easily offended by minor criticism, causing him to lash out making comments, dedicating portions of videos or entire videos to responses. In doing so, he's taken shots at several creators, both burning bridges and alienating himself from parts of the community. As he's alienated himself further, he's built up a sense of paranoia. How exactly? Well, in a video talking about one PokeTuber's proximity to the underage, he spins the story into something about him. In the introduction to the video, he takes aim at the entire Pokemon community, the ones that were friends with this individual, taking that and turning it into the Pokemon community just trying to spite him. Because this guy made videos on Verlisify for 2 minutes and 25 seconds, he goes on this rant about the community. Forget that the video should focus on this person and what they did. No, Verlisify would rather talk about himself and the community that's making fun of him, coming up with a conspiracy theory that people would rather be around a kid like her than around him, just because they hate him for no reason in particular, taking what should be an opportunity to address a serious topic and warn people from a real threat into something about him. It stands to reason a high percentage of everything Verlisify does is for money, enveloping himself in a toxic contrarian personality in a bid to gain attention on his videos through clickbait, purposely acting out of line just to be different. I personally believe that money is a main motivator here. The views and subscribers gained through the attention continues to drive his personality. However, we're averaging about 10 years of toxic contrarianism through the many years and copious dramas, all of which have developed a telling character portfolio. Remember how Verlisify started by saying he didn't care for drama, stating that he didn't want to stir the pot. Such an act is just seemingly dropped. A lot of reactions to Verlisify is to say, I don't think he believes the things he says. To me, it's incredibly hard to believe such commitment without reflecting on his personality. Rather, this is just who Verlisify is. A massive bigot, a pot stirrer, a hypocrite, and the views that are gained from this only serve to fuel his ego, preventing any willingness to change. An example of a person spreading misinformation through false drama and constant contrarianism. I'm someone who doesn't play the games. I personally don't share any connection with them. Verlisify's contrarianism doesn't affect or annoy me much like it would a true Pokemon fan. My love extends to some of the character designs, like my little Sthlm plush that sits on my desk, but I can't claim much else. However, I am still able to identify one, and what I can view from my perspective is the stain on the community that Verlisify can be. Through bigotry, arrogance, conflict, and lies, Verlisify is a terrible image on the community for the size his channel is. Speaking from experience, I understand having bad apples define your community, especially belonging to one with such negative stereotypes. In the Pokemon community, this is almost completely ostracized Verlisify. To this day, he is looked down upon, all because he shot himself in his own foot, universally hated, all on his own fruition. But wait, before I leave, let me ask you one final question. Who is more homophobic, Verlisify or Ferophorn? Answer in the comments below. And with that, I'll see you losers next time. Peace.